Hello and welcome back to, well, the garden's over there. Camera's in the garage and I'm standing at the entrance to the garage. As you can see, or maybe you can't see, but it is a bit of a wet, dreary, rainy day. So I thought today would be a good day to make the official kickoff of the potting shed project. So yesterday, I believe, I posted up a short. If you haven't seen the short, you can always go look it up over on the shorts playlist, or I'll try to post a link up here someplace on the screen, maybe, if I remember. But it was basically showing that I got my first delivery for the potting shed. Now, it's a somewhat unusual delivery in regards to what I got. So I got a bunch of 2x4s, standard in any construction, and then I got some shed siding, which I'm going to talk about in a second, and then I got some fence pickets. That's right, you saw that right, fence pickets, and I'm going to discuss that in a second. And then I got some 2x4x12s. The 2x4x12s, you can actually see them painted white over here in the back, and the reason I got them and many of the other components that I already got was so I could pre-paint them. So for instance, those 2x4x12s are going to be roof bracing. They're not the rafters, but they're going to go on top of the rafters, and that'll help support the roof, and I'll talk about the roof at a later point. So as I just mentioned, I wanted to get a lot of these components early so I could pre-paint them. Take advantage of the relatively warm weather that we have here in Eastern North Carolina and get these things painted so I don't have to try painting them in December when it might be too cold to paint, or January when it's definitely going to be too cold to paint. Now, as a quick disclaimer, I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and I am not a master carpenter. I'm not even a carpenter. I'm not even an apprentice carpenter. I am a Muppet. I've never built a shed before, never built a shed door before, and I've never done a project to this scope. I have upgraded my kitchen. I've actually upgraded a couple of kitchens, relatively simple, and I don't want to make kitchen remodels seem simple, but the walls are already there. The electrical is already there. Basically what I was just doing is maybe replacing some sheetrock and or just removing old cabinets, putting new cabinets up. But the structure itself was there. In this instance, there is no structure. There's nothing. And I made a video earlier this year. I believe it was called My Dream Shed or something like that. I can't remember. I'll put a thing up over here someplace. So the idea of a potting shed came to me from a couple of different sources. One was Gardener's World, which is a BBC gardening program if you're not familiar with it. And the host of that show, Monty Don, he lives in an old farmhouse, which he took a section of it and he made it into his potting shed. So I always thought to myself, wouldn't it be kind of neat to have a little space like that? Another reason that I'm building this potting shed was, and a motivating driver and factor was, I keep a lot of my large tools, shovels, rakes, pitchforks, that kind of thing here in the garage. And it's a bit of a distance to the greenhouse, to the vegetable garden, to the rest of the garden. If I was all the way out in the orchard and I forgot a tool, I have to come back. It's approximately 300 feet back, and then it's 300 feet back there. And it's not that long of a distance per se, but it's a time-consuming process. I got to walk all the way back and walk all the way back. It's just sort of annoying, and it's away from the garden. So I wanted to bring those things closer to the garden so they'd be more convenient. Then I ran across a Pinterest post, which I spoke about in the previous video about potting shed. And it was this picture right here. And I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. It's awesome. It's neat. It's bright. It's got all the things that I would kind of want. And then of course you search through Pinterest and you do things like potting shed and you see all sorts of other great ideas about how you can take a shed and it's either purpose built for that, or you could fit out a regular ordinary shed to be used as a potting shed. So I made up my mind. I decided that I was going to be the big winter project this year. And for the last few years, I've tried to always do some sort of project in the winter. I really wasn't going to do one this year, but I decided to go for it just because tomorrow I may not be here. So live for the moment, as it were. I made the decision, made the first step, got the supplies. I want to talk about the design real quick. So the design is an 8x12 shed. We're going to have a metal roof all on one side. And then on the other side, it's going to be partial metal with a skylight. I'm not going to have a skylight. I'm just going to take a piece of clear polycarbonate roofing, and that's going to act as my skylight. It's going to be facing the same way as my greenhouse. I'm going to have 3 windows, and I'm going to show you the windows in a second, facing the rose garden. And yes, I know right now the rose garden looks like a bit of a hot mess, or the view into the rose garden looks like a bit of a hot mess, but in the future, it will start getting better because there's going to be a lot of work being done to the rose garden hopefully next year. So that'll improve. But I will have a view out onto the rose garden. Those windows will also be facing north, meaning they won't get direct sunlight into them, which is what I want, because the sun down here can be absolutely brutal. And if I had all that sunlight coming in through those windows are going to act as magnifying glasses. It's going to roast me. It's going to roast anything on the inside. No. So I wanted no direct light to come in, but I do want light obviously to come in. The skylight is the same thing. That again will not get direct sunlight into it because the sun comes from that direction there. So it'll be on the opposite slope, but it'll let in more natural light. The potting shed itself will have no electricity at this moment. I may do some solar panels or something at a later date to add in light, but at the moment, it's just going to be natural daylight. Because some of the design choices I made when I was designing this shed, and I did a ton of research on the internet, and there is a ton of resources, web pages, YouTube, bought a bunch of books on sheds and shed building and shed design, things like that. And so there's a ton of research, and I've been doing a ton of homework for almost a year now. It's a long time. I've been doing a lot of homework. I was initially going to do 2 3-foot doors opening, so I'd have a nice big 6-foot wide opening into the shed. Then I thought more about it, and I thought about the amount of material I would need and the cost of that material, and that is one of the huge driving factors for the shed bill is cost. I'm trying to keep the costs below anything that you go out and buy at the store. So at some point later on during the shed build, when I start fitting it out, you're going to see me make shelves out of pallet wood. I'll show you that down the road. I'm not going to explain that now. But I opted to go with a large 4-foot door, which from all my research and from everything I've seen is unheard of. There's 40-inch doors, but I've never seen a 48-inch door. So I did this for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted that wider opening. And 2, your wall panels come in at 4-foot widths. So if I have a 12-foot long potting shed, I would need then 2 panels uncut on either side of the door, which is great, and then the door itself. Now the door I could skin in another wall panel, but the wall panels I purchased, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but it would be more expensive than if I did fence pickets. The reason I did the fence pickets was I had fence pickets in the garage here. They were going to be used for another project, and I think we can't remember, my wife and I think it was for some sort of planters, fancy like wooden planters, but we couldn't find the plans for it, and they've just been sitting here for years. So I decided to use those. And even if I went out and bought all the fence pickets that I needed to skin the door, it was still going to be cheaper than if I bought a pre-made panel. That was the option I went with. Also, it gives me a different design aesthetic for the door versus the rest of the shed. And that's also another consideration when I was building this shed. I didn't want it to look like every other shed on the market. And if you've ever looked at sheds, you know what I mean. All the sheds look alike. They all have the same trim, they all have the same molding, they all have the same base construction. So when I was designing this shed, I wanted to do things differently. And that's because I don't want my shed to look like everybody else's shed. So let me flip this around and I'll show you the fence pickets. As you can see, it gives the door a sort of rustic look to it. At least I think so. Old school planks. It's not going to look like this forever because this is going to get painted. And that comes to the next thing of the build. The entire shed is going to be painted one color. All the trim work, everything. It's going to be painted one color. I basically wanted to almost visually not be there because I don't want it to detract or draw your eye away from other things, such as the rows that I'm going to be growing up one side of it. The one end facing the potting bench, I'm going to have a climbing rose growing up. And I've already left a hole in the patio that it's going to be coming up out of. The only other design thing that's going to happen to this door, well, it's more of a design and an engineering thing. So this door is quite heavy. There's a bunch of gate hinges on Amazon, but the hinges that I've seen on Amazon, they all seem fairly weak to me. And I'm worried that if I buy one of those cheap hinges, they're not gonna work. They're just gonna fail, if not immediately, then over time. And my biggest concern with this being a 4-foot wide heavy door is sagging. I don't want the door to sag. That's one of the reasons I'm actually leaving a 1/2-inch gap on the bottom, is in case it does sag. I almost kind of expect it to sag because of the weight, but found a vendor who swears that their hinges are good for 90 pounds each. So I'm gonna get 2 hinges, one on the top, one on the bottom. They're black. They look very nice. Both of them are rated for 90 pounds. This door is not 90 pounds, but again, I wanted to make sure that my bases are covered. I haven't figured out the door latch that I'm going to use yet. Right now, we're around the Black Friday time, so I'm keeping my eye out on Amazon, hoping that some of the things that I'm looking at are going to go down in price. Let me just touch on the windows real quick. When choosing windows, I didn't want plastic. I had to come up with something else, and I looked on Pinterest and I found several different styles of windows that appealed to me, but something like this is what I wanted. So that's what I got. I found a vendor who makes wooden windows, and this is what I got. Now, the pane arrangement is not what I wanted. That was my mistake.
Idiot.
I did late night shopping. Don't do late night shopping. You make mistakes when you do late night shopping. I did late night shopping. I didn't order the correct layout. The vendor gave me exactly what I had ordered, but I didn't order the correct layout. So this is what I got. Either way, there'll be 3 of these looking out onto the rose garden. And as in the picture here, they'll be hinged on the top and then kick them out on the bottom. Now the inside, trying to keep the same theme, is white. Most everything on the inside of the potting shed will be white. What won't be white are shelves and the bench top. Those won't be white. Everything else will be white. Ceiling, the joists for the braces, the inside of the door you already saw, the inside of the windows, the walls, it's all gonna be white. And that's to help keep the space looking bright and fresh and clean in a way. It's gonna be messy and dirty in time, but it'll just be a little brighter. So the other thing I'm doing right now, pre-building the roof rafters. This is for 2 reasons. One, I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to roof rafters. And you read something online or you watch a video and it looks simple, but then when you actually go to put it into practice, I'm scratching my head going, that math don't add up and I don't know if this is right. And getting your roof right, it's one of those very important features. Obviously you don't want the thing falling down on you. And because I'm here in Eastern North Carolina and we are prone to getting hurricanes every now and again, I don't want the wind ripping the roof off because I built it poorly. I'm trying to pre-build the roof rafters now. I think I got the design worked out. And then once they're done being built, I'm gonna paint them. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I can get all the roof rafters built and pre-painted. The reason I pre-painted those and the reason I'm gonna pre-paint the roof rafters is so that when everything's assembled, I don't have to be climbing up on ladders if it's pre-painted and then it's put up, then I don't have to worry about it once it's up. I almost forgot to mention the wall panels. The wall panels that I got, if I had more experience, if I had more firsthand knowledge or skill, then I probably wouldn't have gotten them, but I did. Not the end of the world. Instead of being the LP Smart Side panels, those are the higher end shed panels. I got the next step down, which are the multi-purpose LP side thing. Basically, it's OSB with a wood grain pattern on one side, which I'm not thrilled with, but it is what it is. I paid for them. I'm just going to use them. They were cheaper than the other ones, and again, the whole point is to keep costs as low as possible. The inside will be painted white. The outside will be painted the green that you saw with the windows. So I think overall, they'll be okay. I just have to be careful when installing them and ensuring that all the edges are going to be painted and or protected from any sort of weather. Anywhere where there's a seam, I will make sure that's either caulked or I'll put a piece of trim over that again, just to help protect the board and ensure the life of the shed. I'm not going to bore you guys with me putting together every single little thing. I may do a short with some fast speed run stuff, but I'm not gonna, because I'm not an expert. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express. I keep putting that disclaimer out there. So guys, if you're a guy and you've built sheds before and you got all the answers and you know all the shortcuts and the tricks, good. Feel free to leave any tips below because I'm not. I've just been learning what I've learned on the interwebs and from some books. So I think for most of you though, the exciting part will be the fitting out of the inside of the potting shed. This is what's going to make this shed different from so many others. A shed is a shed, I get it, nothing special about it, but it's how I think you arrange or configure the interior of the space to suit your needs. So I'm going to be arranging and setting up shelving and potting bench and a whole bunch of other stuff in a particular way that I will bring you along for more so than me building the structure. But I wanted to do a video to say, hey, the project is kicked off. It's under construction. There'll be plenty of other gardening videos because I still have a bunch of cleanup to do out in the garden, and there's still some transplanting that I want to do. It's actually a fairly sizable project that I'm going to be doing. I'll bring you guys along for that, but it's going to involve some transplanting and removal of other plants, and well, when we get there, we get there. So let me guys know what you want to see in regards to the potting shed, or if you have any questions or comments, that kind of thing. Again, please let me know. This is the hat I'm wearing today. I got it from Epic Gardening. If you're not aware, you probably are. They're doing their Black Friday sale right now, and you can save yourself an additional 5% off all their sale prices. If you use my link, you can save yourself an additional 5% off. So if it's 25% off, use my link, you get 30% off. So on and so forth. I know right now with Black Friday sales, this is always a good time for gardeners to get stuff at a low discounted price for next spring, so they're ready to go, whether it's seed trays or something else. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. This way you won't miss anything that's going on with the potting shed or that's going out in the garden. With all that being said, I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. It's raining outside, I'm not going that way.